Good afternoon, folks. This is Robert Chappell, Executive Editor at Madison365 with your daily update for August 30th. It is almost the end of August already. Can you imagine that? So today it is Monday, which means it is, oops, sorry. It is, give me 1 second, I'll tell you what day it is. You know what day it is if you've been watching this show for a while. It is Metcalf's Mondays. Metcalf's is a family owned fourth generation market with stores in Madison at Hilldale and behind the Westtown Mall and in Wauwatosa at 68th and State. They are ready for Labor Day weekend with local meats and seafood ready for your smoker or grill and all kinds of fruits and veggies from local farms as well. Stop by any of those stores, and because it's still a pandemic and because it's just easier sometimes, you can still order for pickup or delivery anytime at shopmetcalfs.com. All right. So now the numbers for today, the coronavirus COVID numbers. We're back at that place where I'm just sick of talking about it because it's just bad news every day. Today, it's Monday, right? On Friday, we reported almost 2,300 new cases. Today's 899. That's just from Sunday to Monday. Okay. And Mondays are always lower because there's just not as much testing done. There's not as much testing processed over the weekend. There's not as much paperwork done, right? Getting data into the system. But Mondays, when we say Mondays are lower, Mondays recently have been in the 300, 400, 500 range. I think last Monday was over 700. So today to be at 899 does not bode well for the rest of the week. That pushes our 7-day average up to 1,692, which that hasn't been that high since the 22nd, 21st of January. Deaths also remained steady at 8 per day. There were no deaths reported over the weekend, which is pretty typical. Right? Again, that's a paperwork thing. I hate to talk about death as a paperwork, right? That's not what I mean exactly. What I mean is that when someone dies of COVID, it takes, historically, it's taken several weeks at least to appear in the data, and sometimes it takes months. Sometimes, over the summer, this past summer, when things were slower, there were a whole bunch of deaths being added from October, November, December of last year. Okay, because they have to go through this process of certifying the death certificates and then uploading that into the state data. So to have no deaths reported over the weekend is pretty typical because those offices aren't working on the weekends as much. So, but still, 8 deaths per day at this moment is not great. We're almost to 7,600 deaths total. We're at 7,584. The other piece of bad news today, 2 more pieces of bad news, okay? The positive test rate is up to 7.9%. This is of all tests sort of processed in the past 7 days, 7.9% were positive. Now, this is as of Saturday, because we don't see numbers over the weekend, but when they come on Monday, they do post the numbers from the weekend. On Saturday, it was 8.2. That's terrible. That hasn't been that high. Let me think. Let me look here. Yeah, again, we're looking back mid-January. So mid to late January is about where we are right now. We, in terms of positive test rate, we are well above where we were at this time last year. This time last year, it was in the 4.8% range. Now we're at 7.9. Now that's likely because we're just not doing as much testing right now. right? Remember last year about this time, Alliant Energy Center was open and anybody could stop by and get tested at any time. And there was these long waits and there's a ton of testing happening, which when there's more testing, the positive test rate goes down because there's more negative tests as well as more positive tests. But at the same time, around this, we're also ahead of last year in terms of new cases. This time last year, we were at 699 new cases per day. And now we're at 1,692. Okay, so this state of Wisconsin, first of all, is over halfway vaccinated, right? Which is better than a lot of other states. And we're also our numbers are a lot better than a lot of other states. So even as this sounds really terrible, Florida is looking at like 900 deaths per day, right? We're at 8. So that's kind of the bottom line for me, is how many people are being hospitalized and dying. We'll get to hospitalizations in a second. But if you remember how critical and how horrible everything was last fall, which really started after college students came back, which is kind of happening right now. College students are moving back to start school. With K through 12 schools closed pretty much statewide last fall, we're still worse off now with half of our citizens vaccinated. That does not bode well at all. Right? So with less testing, we're seeing more new cases per day on average. Seeing fewer deaths right now. I wonder if we can get a sense of what they don't really. They don't show historical data in terms of average of deaths. I probably have it on a spreadsheet somewhere, but there were, around this time last year, there were single digit deaths, and the deaths didn't really start going up until middle of October, because again, there's a delay, right? From increase in cases, a few weeks go by, there's an increase in hospitalizations, a few more weeks go by, there's an increase in deaths, because that's how long it takes, first of all, for the disease to run its course, but secondly, for the data to get reported. So let's talk about hospitalizations for a second. We are over 900 people hospitalized now. As of Friday, was 845. Today it is 911. An ominous number. 911. It's an emergency, folks. That's 26 more than yesterday and 66 more than Friday, the last time we spoke, and 119 more than a week ago. So it's a little bit, I don't know, just ballparking the number here, about 12% increase in the past week. Of those, 293. So, am I doing this right? Is that about 1 in 3? A little less than 1 in 3? 293. Yeah, but 1 in 3 people who are hospitalized with COVID-19 are in the ICU right now. That's a 17% increase since Sunday. That's up by 50 in the past week. There are 163 ICU beds left open in the state right now. That's a little over 10% of all the ICU beds we have in the state are currently vacant, available. So that's not great either. We're not at the point where, there was a time when there were 4,000 people hospitalized. That's when we had to have the field hospital in Milwaukee that never really got full, which is good. Right? Remember, we built that temporary facility in Milwaukee at State Fair Park that could have held up to 500 people. It never held more than about 30. Right? We just barely avoided that crush that other states saw, where hospital systems we're like critically overwhelmed. So we're not there yet, although it's doesn't look great, right? That might not happen. Okay, so that's basically the coronavirus numbers. This is a good point. There are home tests now, and they're not very expensive. They're like $24. They're very easy. And for that, you get 2 tests, which you're supposed to have one person take it twice. But I'll tell you a secret. I bought it, and I had one kid test, and it was negative. But then I also got like an official test, like at a pharmacy, and that was also negative. So we kept the other one and used it on a different kid when he got a cold. So those numbers, obviously, as Steve says, don't get reported to the state, which will impact your negative, because we're having, people are testing negative and then not reporting it to the state. So that's a negative test, technically, that doesn't get reported to the data. So that's a good point, Steve. Thank you. One other piece of news, though, related to COVID is that Madison Metro School District, I think I mentioned this Friday, the administration is recommending a vaccine mandate for staff. And I'm not sure if they're recommending it for students. That's kind of up to the school board. It is up to the school board. The school board will be discussing it tonight and voting on it next month. I believe on September 27th is when I saw a report that it would come up for a vote. Right? You have to do that. You have to go through that process. And I was a little bit surprised to see today what I said on Friday, right, was that this administration was going to recommend it, but I wasn't sure what the teachers union would do. Teachers unions, there haven't been a lot. It hasn't come up a lot, frankly, that I've seen around the country, but teachers unions typically are pretty cautious about that kind of thing, right? I know, like New York City at first was opposed to even mask mandates, but then changed their mind, the New York City Teachers Union. But today, the Madison Teachers Incorporated Teachers Union came out in favor of mandatory vaccines. What I don't know, and unfortunately, I haven't had a chance to check on this today. I've been pretty busy, but are they recommending it for staff or for also mandate students who are eligible or over the age of 12 to be vaccinated? That I don't know. And whatever the administration and the union recommend doesn't necessarily have to be what the school board adopts, right? So we'll keep track of it. I'll probably tune into the school board meeting tonight and see how the conversation goes, because it might be that just because they have to wait a month to actually impose the mandate doesn't mean it wouldn't have an effect, right? If they talk about it tonight and everybody seems in agreement, then the administration and the union could go to the staff and be like, look, they're going to implement this vaccine mandate. Just go ahead and get vaccinated, please. And I'm also pretty sure almost all the teachers already are vaccinated. So it's not going to have a huge impact. Although it can certainly have a huge impact on one classroom, right? So all that said, we'll just keep tabs on that, and it's another, I don't know, example. It's being set by the second largest school district in the state and the largest school district here in Dane County. All right, that is the coronavirus news. Stay with me. I have some other stuff for you, some other local news that you might have interest in, and we'll have that for you right after this. We'll be right back, so don't scroll away. All right, there it is. I'm going to give you a different link and a different URL to support us because we're changing that after we cut that commercial, that little ad, we changed the way we're doing donations. But the other thing I want to mention is I mentioned last week that we have the Wisconsin Leadership Summit is coming up in October. Right, that's our event that we have for people of color, professional development and networking, community building event. But the Wisconsin Leadership Community Choice Awards nominations are now open, but we're adding new ones this year. This is the third annual Community Choice Awards, right? We've got Man of Excellence, Woman of Excellence, Business Leader of the Year, Nonprofit Leader of the Year, etc. College and high school Student Leaders of the Year. So the nominations for those are all open, but also we're adding two new awards this year that are not going to be voted on by the general public, but that are going to be voted on by a smaller group. But they're the Business Impact Awards, and you can nominate your own company for your own D&I work within your own staff, as well as your community connections and working toward equity in your community. And I'm going to put a link in the comments. And make sure I type it right. So it's WisconsinLeadershipSummit.com/awards, and those nominations are open right now. And then we'll announce finalists late September, right? And then we'll announce the awards right before the summit, which begins October 18th. So check that out. Now, in local news today and state news, last week, Wednesday, Malele Chikasa Anana Elementary School officially got its new name. This is formerly Falk Elementary School. These are school board members. That on the right there is Ollie Muldrow. She's the president of the school board, and then Maya Pearson next to her, along with a portrait of Ms. Malele by local artist Jerry Jordan. And this ceremony took place again last Wednesday. Arioma Wolf was there. There's the new nameplate on the school. Ms. Malele was the publisher of Emoji Magazine for 30 years, and just a really important figure of Black Madison and Black Madison history. So to have the school named after her, it's the second school in the past year and a half or so that has been renamed for a Black woman after Glendale became Henderson Elementary School. So that was a fun thing. It's a good story. It's there on Madison365.org today. Also on the site today, Democrats in the state legislature are trying to push through a prescription drug package that was originally part of Governor Evers' budget and got stripped out of the budget in that process, as things often do. So they're pushing it as its own legislative package. It would cap insulin copays at $50. It would eliminate copays on Badger Care, et cetera. It would leverage the bargaining power of the state to reduce prices, et cetera. Lots of things like that, which not only helps, just bring the price down for everybody, but also Black and brown folks are just less likely to have prescription drug insurance. So it'll help them, those folks, more than the rest of us. Also today, Shiva Bidar, friend of the show, is the vice president and chief diversity officer at UW Health, and she's now added a whole other layer to her title. She is now the associate dean for diversity and equity transformation at UW School of Medicine and Public Health. So so that is, it looks, the way this press release is written, and some of these are a little bit vague sometimes, but that she'll continue her vice president job at UW Health. But they're establishing a multifunctional office of diversity and equity transformation. At the School of Medicine and Public Health, and Shiva will lead that office. So that's exciting. It's good on UW for that, and congratulations to Shiva. Now, one last thing I mentioned after I played that ad about donating. The correct way to donate now, you can still go to Madison365.org/donate if you want to make a one-time donation. But what would be even better for you to support the work we do as a nonprofit newsroom is to join the FAM, which is our monthly subscription program. right? It's the thing is, we started 6 years ago, understanding that everybody, the communities of color specifically, needed a better news outlet for them specifically, and as such, we just couldn't, in good conscience, charge money for it, right? Understanding that people of color didn't really have a media outlet that was just for them. So we're going to create this thing and then make them pay $10 a month or something. Like, we just couldn't do it. But what we do costs money, right? All this journalism that we do is professional journalists, and they get paid as such, right? Plus, we don't have an office, we don't have a newsroom. There's very little overhead, so any money that we get in actually goes right into the work and the reporting and making sure you're informed. So if you can help us, if we did have a $10 a month subscription, or $25 a month subscription, or $50 a month subscription, if you could do that, you can, right? Go ahead and do it so that we can keep it free for everybody else, right? And you go to Madison365.org/thefam. And I will put that link in the comments so you can just hit it and get straight there, and you don't even have to remember it. And you can join at $5, $10, $25, or $50 a month, and to help us keep this thing going and growing and keep it free for everyone. All right. That's all I have for you today. It's a beautiful evening. Hope you get out and enjoy it. Have a wonderful night. Take care of yourself. Stay safe. Keep your mask on. All that. And we'll be back here tomorrow. Have a good night.
This is 365 Media.